everyone, welcome to Coffee Date Thursday. Today is, I have to look at my calendar, Thursday, April 23rd, and today's topic is birth story / love story. By the way, say hello to Waffles. Hi Waffles! Hi guys! He's my Valentine bear from John. I very subtly hinted that I wanted a teddy bear as big as me for Valentine's, and he came home with a teddy bear as big as me. That was awesome. So I like to lounge with him. Anyway, I've got a couple minutes of quiet right now, so I figured I'd go ahead and do my video. Anyway, oh my goodness, where was I? I have coffee this time. Today's topic is birth story / love story, and I guess from what I understand it was birth story of one of your kids, or if you didn't feel like sharing that or you don't have children yet, because we have a very large group of ladies that do this, or people that do this, because I guess there's some boyfriends and husbands that do it too. Your love story. You could do your love story if you didn't have kids yet, so whatever. I've pretty much kind of alluded to my love story, you know, in past videos, so I'm not going to do that. I am going to do my son's birth story, and he took the longest. Let's see. My son is Ty. You've probably seen him on my videos. He was born in July 2009, 8 days before my husband's and my first anniversary. Let's see. Oh my gosh. I had morning sickness like crazy. In the middle was okay, and then toward my due date, I was so sick. I had false labor all the time. I had back labor like crazy, so bad that John took me into the hospital, into triage, to see what was going on, because I couldn't move. I hurt so bad. I wanted to throw up. I did throw up a couple times. And I was just so sick, and I was so nauseous. It was like being pregnant, you know, in the first trimester, but 9 months pregnant, and like 2 weeks away from your due date. It was awful, and I was sick all the time, and I was going into the doctor, and she prescribed me anti-nausea medicine. She prescribed me safe sleep medication so that I could sleep, to try and rest, to try and relax a little bit, and I ended up in triage at least twice, just freaking out, and then I went into triage again 2 days before, 2 days before he was due, with mild contractions, but by then I was so done. And triage called my doctor, and my doctor, you know, they said, hey, we know it'll be 2 days early, but would you like to go ahead and induce, just so that you can have him, you know, otherwise you're just going to keep coming back in. And I was like, you know, John and I kind of talked about it, and we're like, yeah, that's definitely happening. So I stayed. They hooked me up to Pitocin. I was laboring and not resting and just so sick and so uncomfortable, and ugh. And then the Pitocin kicked in, which means the Pitocin contractions kicked in, and if you've ever had Pitocin or have been induced, it's like crazy. I couldn't handle it. I was so stressed. I had family there all day. I went in at midnight, and I think starting at like 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, my family was there in the room, in and out of the room, talking, which is fine. That's what we wanted. That's what we thought we wanted. But now in hindsight, it's much nicer if you don't have 10,000 people in and out. Let's see. I labored and I labored and I labored, but I wasn't progressing. So, and my nurse was a sweetheart. I wish I could find her and like thank her, because she was so patient with me and so calm and, well, let's try this and let's try this. And she tried like the birthing ball in between my legs sideways on the bed to try and get him to turn a little bit because he was at a weird angle and I wasn't progressing. I wasn't dilating even with the contractions and the Pitocin. We tried in the tub. We tried out of the tub, we tried walking, we tried sitting on the birthing ball, we tried everything, and he just was not coming, and I was not, I wasn't ready. In hindsight, after 3 kids, I can say now, I was not ready to give birth. And we were just forcing it on a body that wasn't ready. But eventually, I was against an epidural. I was going to try to go as far as I could without an epidural. I wasn't 100% against it, like it's not going to happen, but it was let me get as far as I can. So instead of doing an epidural, about 12 hours in, they started giving me a local anesthetic through my IV, and it helped for a little bit, and then it would wear off. And so they'd administer it again, and that it would help for a shorter amount of time, and then it would wear off. And, every time you use it, it would only help. It would help for a shorter amount of time than the last time. And it made me nauseous. It made me sick. I remember, the whole time I was in labor, I was throwing up and not able to keep anything down and so sick. And eventually I got progressed enough to where my body decided that it was going to start pushing with my contractions, and I could not control it. I just was involuntarily pushing at 6-7 centimeters. It was awful, and the anesthetic wasn't helping anymore. I didn't want any more of it. I was so sick. I had people in and out. Just, oh my gosh. So my doctor came in, or my nurse came in and checked me, and I had gone from an 8. Well, I thought I heard a kid. I had gone from an 8 back down to I had gone from a 9 back down to a 7. I had, because of my involuntary pushing, I had swollen my cervix 2 centimeters. Oh my goodness. So about that time, my doctor was like, well, we can break your water and see if that will help you progress. And I was like, sure, fine. And she goes, but would you like an epidural? And John had not left my side the whole entire 12, 13, 14 hours. He had not left my side for anything, maybe to go to the bathroom, but he hadn't eaten, only what people brought him. And he and I were talking about it, and we decided that I was going to get an epidural because I was not resting. I was not progressing. I was I was done. So we agreed to the epidural. His mom had a meltdown. She is so homeopathic, so natural birth, so everything natural, that she pretty much almost self-destructed when she found out we were going to do the epidural. That she had to leave the room. It was bad. So they broke my water, I got my epidural, and I slept. It was amazing. Because the epidural, I couldn't feel my contractions anymore. I didn't have to be on the local, they stopped administering the local anesthetic, so I wasn't as sick. And we were watching on the monitor, how they hook you up to the monitor and you can see your contractions. And we were like, oh wow, that's a really big contraction. I can't feel it, And I was able to sleep, and John was able to leave while I was sleeping and go, take care of himself and get some food and stuff. And I was able to stop pushing. That was the main thing with the epidural, is my body, because I couldn't feel anything, my body stopped pushing, and my cervix got to unswell, and I got to dilate like I was supposed to. And then it was time to push, and they got me a mirror. I don't know if that's a big thing or not, but I always use a birthing mirror, so they got the mirror and I got to see him like coming out, and literally once I was dilated and he was in position and everything, I pushed 3 times. It was wonderful. Sorry, I keep hearing noises. But yeah, I pushed 3 times and he was out. But while I was pushing, my doctor calmly said, you know, he's been he's been under so much stress that when he comes out, please don't be alarmed if he's not breathing. What? And 3 pushes later, he came out and he let out one little cry. And they weren't giving him to me. You know. Oh my gosh, sorry. And I had everyone in the room still. The whole family was there except John's dad. But they weren't giving him to me. They were working on him. They let me see him. And then they took him over to the table. And my doctor was working on me. John was with me. But there was like 1,000 people over working on my baby. And he wasn't crying, and he wasn't crying, and he wasn't crying, and he wasn't crying. And finally, he started crying over on the table. And they had sucked a whole bunch of amniotic fluid out of his lungs. Like, I guess they were surprised at the amount that they had to suck out of his lungs. But then he started breathing, and he started crying, and I got to hold him finally. And he was just a quiet baby, really content. They, turned off my epidural, my placenta looked good, all that jazz. But it was, it was the most awful birth ever. I don't ever want to go through 19 hours of that again. Let me get a tissue. It was just horrible. It was almost one of those that you're like, I am never going to have another child because of that. And afterward, I remember him being, I wasn't allowed to, well, I was allowed to hold him, but I wasn't holding him for some reason. I don't remember. But he was over in the bassinet, and they hadn't wheeled him over to my bed yet, and I wasn't allowed to get up out of bed because after you have your epidural, you have to wait a little bit, and you have to have a nurse come in and help you and all this stuff. Well, so I was sitting in bed, and he was over in the bassinet, and John's dad had come to see him. I think that's why he was in the bassinet, because John and his dad had him. And they put him back down in the bassinet, and then John's dad had to talk to him, and he took him outside of the room, and they closed the door, and I was left in the room by myself with my baby out of reach over in the bassinet. And I was just like, okay, wow. And Ty started crying. And I can't get up out of bed. And my husband wasn't in the room. And I was like calling him like, John, John, John. And he wasn't coming in. And I finally had to call the nurse and say, hey, my husband's not in the room. My baby's crying. I can't get out of bed. And, you know, they came in, and then John came in because the nurses were coming in, so then John could come in. But that whole thing was that his dad didn't approve that we had my whole family in the room the whole day. And he was, like, lecturing him about that. While my baby is sitting in the bassinet crying, and I can't get to him. Thank you very much. So, it just, the whole labor experience, after the labor, even just that, we had a really, really, really hard time nursing. I could not nurse him to save my life, or his life, and that triggered, you know, the whole experience triggered horrible postpartum depression. Oh my gosh. And I remember getting mad at my baby and like screaming at my baby, just being so angry and all this, and I was trying so hard, but I was so angry and a horrible mom to my baby. And I finally, my doctor, my pediatrician, finally told me that he was basically starving to death because nursing wasn't working. So whatever, that's fine. We put him on formula. He chunked right up. I got on medication for my postpartum, and, you know, things got better, but I still feel so horrible about it. It was the worst time in my life with my babies ever, and I never want to go through that again. I gotta put my coffee down or I'm gonna spill it. But he's a healthy, almost 6-year-old. So, you know, our hard beginning did not affect him at all. It just has affected me. And I strive to never be like that again. So that's his birth story. I'm sorry, I like total meltdown on you guys. So now that I've rambled for probably like 20 minutes and cried my eyes out and probably let you in on one of the most horrible times ever and the happiest time ever, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go finish my coffee and just, but anyway, so I'll see you guys at least next Thursday. Have a good week. Have a good rest of the day. I look forward to watching your coffee date Thursday. And always, if you want to join us, feel free to join the Facebook group Coffee Date Thursday. Look it up, and it's a pretty neat group, you guys. So you should try it. Please like, thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Bye.